Hey there, this is Professor Demersion, and we're going to do a little tutorial on how to use Premiere. I thought it would be helpful so everyone could access this at any point in time during the next week or two and come back to it and practice any of this stuff that you need for your project. So what I've done is I've launched Adobe Premiere. We're using Adobe Premiere Creative Cloud is what the CC stands for. And you'll need to use this on the Apple computers in 206. It may work on any Apple computer that we have throughout the university, but you can know that you can use with your card, come into that lab at any point in time. So I'm going to select a new project here, and this is where you title the project. I'm going to call this Doc Tutorial number 2, but you can really call your piece whatever the name of your film is. While we're here, this is really kind of always good to know when you're video editing where your footage is going to be, where your files are. You can see here's the user, my name, and then within the Documents folder there's an Adobe folder. Within that there's an Adobe a Premiere Pro 7.0, and that's where the stuff is going to reside. Don't worry about the playback engine for right now. Time code is good here, audio sample. So just go with the default. And then the HDV is the one to go with here. It's going to just basically go with the default, but I just wanted you to know this is where your files are going to be for the, and this is, to be specific, this is not your video files. Those could be in, let's say, your Documents folder. But this is like all the decisions that you're going to make within your, all of these decisions. This file here is going to be in that location. Okay, so this the good news is if you're used to working with Avid or Final Cut Pro, there's going to be so many similarities here, and I'll try to draw those out to you. So right here is where our bin is, and in the bottom left-hand corner, and I'm going to start populating the bin with our materials. So you're going to want to bring in your video footage, your audio footage, your images, etc. So what I did there is I right-clicked within the bin, and that's going to be how you want to bring in your footage to access that. Like everything with video editing, there's 100 ways to do everything. So I'm going to grab that one. Here's a cool trick. You can command click, and it will take multiple video files. Okay, I think that's everything I'm going to need. I'm going to say import here. And also I'm going to get some audio files again. So I have right there, I have some movies shot with different cameras, and I'll talk about that in a sec. A JPEG image. Let's bring in a audio file. And so let's say you want some background music, or you have an interview that you only did as a audio file, you can do that too. So I control clicked or right clicked, and then I'm going to go to a different folder and get a little granular synthesis cello thing and import that. Okay, so you can see these extensions here of the different types. As you're working, you're going to have a massive project of 100 different video clips, 20 different images, 30 different songs, and things like that. And you really want to keep this stuff organized. I'm going to right click again and choose this new bin. It's a really good practice to put these things in folders so you can kind of know where all your stuff is. I'm going to make another bin. I'm going to call this one, instead of interviews, I'm going to call this one B-roll. Okay, and then I'm going to call this one, you could call this one music, and then another one here, let's say images. Okay, and then what you want to do is just drag the music to the music one. This is an interview here, and this is a B-roll. I'm going to hold down the Shift key again, select both of those, drop that in there. This is also B-roll, and put this image in the images one. So you can see how you can scroll this up, and as you have 100 different items, you would still have those 4 different kind of folders, and it makes your project much more neat and controllable. A couple other things here. I'm going to double click this, and this is where you can monitor your footage, where you choose your in and out points and things like that. But before we get there, I want you to just see, instead of using these like super long weird codes that get assigned to an image, you can also just put semantic words in here like entrance. Okay, I just clicked on that, and then you can kind of when you click on it and you see that highlighted in yellow, that means you can then change that. It's also important to take a look at this, some of what they call metadata here. This is information about the video that you've shot. And here we see that the duration of this clip here is almost 2 minutes. That means 1 minute, 53 seconds, and 3 frames here. Take a look at this. This is footage that is originally shot in 4K. It's actually a Steadicam shot, which we'll see in a second. 4K is like a much higher resolution image than, it's twice as much or more than high def right now. This is just a low res version in 2K, so it's half of what it actually is. But you can, I want you to just see here that I have 2 different types of footage that I'm working with, and you want to, the one that you want to work with, the one that you want to put into your, to start your project or your timeline, your sequence, is the one that you have the most footage of. And for here, our final output's going to be 1920 by 1080, so that's the one I want to use to make our sequence. I just wanted you to see here in this area where there's metadata, you can look and see that this is 24 frames a second, 25 frames a second. Let's take a look here at the interviews. And so here's an interview I shot. We have a little light over here. The majority, the key light is on this side of her face. We have some sculpting here in her face. So it's a nice image. And we're going to use this shot. This is at 1920 by 1080. And we're going to drag that into the sequence here. This is our timeline, just like in those 2 other applications like Final Cut Pro and Avid. You have a timeline in Adobe Premiere. In fact, I'm going to stop that and then go back and let's just listen to this. So this is where you preview and you set your kind of rough cut, your in and out.
Can you wave just to see if you're okay?
So let's say I want to take that right where she says, where I say, can you wave?
Can you wave just to see?
So let's get a second before. Now when you're video editing, you really want to use the J, K, and L keys. So check this out. I'm going to hit the J key and that rewinds it. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go with the L key, and that's like and then if you hit those quickly, like 2 times in a row quick, you'll just go twice as fast backwards. And then same thing the other. Okay? So the K key does the stop. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is, right there, I'm going to hit the K key, and then I'm going to hit I, which stands for input. That means that your that's like the your in point, pardon me, your in point. And so that's where your edit's going to start. And this, if you ever want to make a dissolve like we're going to do in some of the other shots, you have this headroom that's important to make sure that you're that you have footage to dissolve from here. And now let's see where we want to finish this clip. So let's hit play again.
Can you wave
Drink
just
coffee.
to see if you're okay? I wasn't sure. Okay.
So let's say we want to have an out point where she kind of leans forward there. And I'm going to hit O for out. And you can see how those are really conveniently located right by your J, K, and L key. So you want to have your right hand hovered over those J, K, and L, I, and O as you're editing pretty much all the time. And now you can, one way to do this is to drag and drop that in. And just so you know, here in the timeline, you can stretch that out, and you can kind of work with this. It's not like, oh, once you do, everything's got to be done here. You can continue to modify it within the timeline. Okay. If you want to see that a little bit bigger in the timeline, you can hit the plus key that's up in the top row where the numbers are on towards the right, and minus key to increase and decrease that image. What I want us to focus on today is I want to give you the total essentials, the basics for making documentary videos, and that's going to be how do you bring in your kind of edit those in and out points for your interviews, get the dialogue that you want, and also how to make B-roll, how to add fades between those, and how to insert music and images. So that's what we're going to really focus on here. Okay, so let's bring in some B-roll, and let's just say I'm going to go with this entrance shot. And like I was saying, this is a steady cam shot. So what I want to do, I'm going to hit the J key, and right when it kind of starts the movement like that, so this is a harness that a person wears that makes it kind of have that feeling like it's almost a ghost-like image of a person walking through a space. And let's say when it gets to this point here, we're going to stop that. So I'm going to hit the K key, hit the O key, and now let's say I want to bring that in right at this point. And this is something where you can choose, just like in Avid, you can choose the layer that that video image is going to go to. And what we can start to use now are these really handy, what I love about Premiere is it has this kind of feature which you didn't really have in Final Cut, is you can overwrite by just hitting the, and what that means is you can bring that into the timeline by just hitting the period key here. So I just hit the period key and boom, right where my cursor was, it put that video image right in there. That's kind of cool. I can move it backwards now, but because this was here and my cursor was there, it put it right where I wanted it to go. Okay, and so that's how this works. Now I'm going to go Command Z twice, and but the reason why I did twice is because I moved it. So that one move and then the bringing it down in, I went back 2 steps. I also wanted to show you the difference between the, so there's the overwrite and then the insert. Now if I hit the insert, you could also just press these, just by the way. You can see what that does is it makes a space in between these 2 things. Now I don't want to do that here, but just know that if you had this bottom video footage and you wanted to, let's say, continue this, afterwards, that's how you would do that. I'm going to go Command Z twice again just because I did that second thing. Okay, but right now we want to just overwrite that. Okay, and now let's put in a second image, and I'm going to have this fade in and out between these 2 things, and so I'm going to really start this next image here below that one, and I'm going to use it right now. This is a snapshot of an interview I did with another person. So pretend this guy is talking, but you get the sense of what's happening. But I did want to show you how to use images as well, because I know a lot of you guys may want to use some images. Okay, so just like before, let's bring that down, and with our cursor here, if I hit overwrite, it's going to put that image right here. Now the trick is it's massive. Let's take a look again. Use this metadata here to find out what the F is going on. It's really super important for the more advanced stuff that you want to get into. Check this out. This is a massive image. It's over 5,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels. So what do we got to do? We got to shrink that down. If we double click here and go to effects, you can then look and see how you can control the scale of something. So if I bring this down to, let's say, 60%, and you can see, okay, it's getting there. But what I did is I just clicked in there and I'm dragging downward, and so now you can't really see the edge of that image, but I'm going to put it right about here at 33%. Okay, and but I just wanted you to see this is how you can control, and maybe for next class I'll show you how to move that over time so you could do like a Ken Burns effect, and you can just drag that out. Because it's an image, it's just going to be still like that. Okay, one other thing I want to do here is, let's say I want to have some music come in right about here's a good thing I want to show you. So you can navigate through these different edit points with the up and down arrows. Okay, but look at this. See, when I'm on video 1 here, it's going to ignore this thing and go straight to that. And sometimes you want to, let's say I want the music to start right when this blue, when that second image comes in. All you got to do is click here. Oh Jesus, I'm so sorry. That's when you want to have the video image get loaded in from the sequence there. This is the one here that you need to click on to get it to go straight to that one. So that's a good little thing. So toggle that one on to get that cursor to stop at the points for the video too. Okay, so let's do this, and now let's once again, you can, if this is getting messy, you can just close these guys, and now let's double click our music file. Oh, whoops, I should have showed you this. So this thing here is our sequence, and we can call this let's call this Bell is the name of this project, let's say, and then say like rough cut 1. And another thing you could do, another kind of good nomenclature habit, is to put the date in there that you're working on this. It's going to be in the metadata there anyhow, but it's helpful that if you start to have 30 different sequences, it's good to know when you were working on stuff quickly. Okay, so I'm going to double click on this. So here's a sound file. Okay, we're going to add a fade to that little abrupt start. And let's just say I want to go, so you can see here, this is a long sequence here. Let's go about 30 seconds, and I'm going to hit the out key. I didn't hit an in point. If you don't hit an in point, it defaults to the kind of endpoint of the piece. I just showed you there how you can actually just grab and drag it. I'm going to go Command Z, and with this audio here, it should be landing right there. And so let's hit the overwrite, and boom, that's exactly what happened. And if you want, we can kind of trim that up too. That, and you can see how it kind of snapped to that at the end. Time for some coffee, 1 second. Should I have a corporate sponsor? Sumatra, Starbucks, delicious. Okay. Okay, good. Now, so what we're doing is we're building up this nice little kind of, come on.
Can you wave just to
So you can see how that's see how that peaked out? That audio, we're going to get rid of that. Let's just watch this again here.
Can you wave just to see if you're okay? I wasn't sure.
And then we want to add a fade to that. And this music is also a little bit too hot for what I want. You know, let's say I want to have vocals over this. You could just have that continue and have this music there. So let me show you how to drop the audio on that. I'm going to select the clip in the audio portion. I'm going to control click or right click, and then you'll see here audio gain. Okay, I'm going to bring that down by -6, and this is in dB. So what we should see here is if we go over now, instead of it peaking out, it should be right around the -6 point instead of the peak.
Can you wave just to see if you're okay? I wasn't sure.
So that one thing that went over there is now, you don't see it peaking here. Very cool, very important. If you guys are peaking in your things, that you're going to get an F, something like that. I don't know, not an F, but that'll be something that's going to detract on your grade. Let's lower this guy, and let's do this -12 dB. And what that does is it's just going to kind of put this in a range that's a little bit lower for the audio. So it just doesn't take over the world. You can still hear, this is like an L cut or a J cut, where you can still hear that audio continuing on if you want to have that. So let's say you could have, you totally want to be doing stuff like this. Over this B-roll, have this audio continue on. So that's something that is something you'd want to do. Now, let's add some effects to have a smooth transition between these two things, and bring in a like an audio fade in on that. So what I did here is, here's our main area where we've been working. It's the project area. Here's the effect area. And what I want to start with is, let's throw a transition effect. So video effects are, let's say you want to do a color correction on this image or one of the other ones. That's where you do something that's going to go over the entire clip. Transitions are just on this kind of point between the head and tail of two different ones. And for documentary film, you're really going to be primarily using, and what I'm expecting for you guys to be doing, is just using cross dissolves for this stuff. Like every I'm going to blow this up here. If you want to like fill, let's say you want to fill your entire sequence with this, you hit the backspace key. It's a real useful key to have, and that's just below the delete. And I'm going to double click on the cross, on the fade, and it defaults to about a second. And that's cool, but oftentimes you want to do like 16 frames, like a really short one, or sometimes, like in this case, I want it to be a little bit longer. Let's say 2 seconds and 15 frames. Okay, I'm going to say OK to that, and you can see how that just extended out now. And what I'm going to do here, and let's do another one of those. I'm going to just grab that and drag that over here, and so I'll double click 215. You could put anything in there if you want to for this end one, but it's for me, I'm going to move this image so it kind of starts there. So what's happening here is, check this out. And I should have showed you this before I did that. Whatever is on top here is going to, let me just go Command Z 3 times. Okay. So we have 2 images stacked on top of each other. An important thing to see is the only thing you're going to see is what's on top, this top layer. You won't see what's below until you don't have that top layer there. Okay, and what is happening here is when you're bringing this dissolve over it, okay, then you're able to see this kind of in between. I'm going to step through here with the left and right key. You can see in between here it's both together. That's kind of a nice look. You know, that's a cool thing. You could actually make that something where you lower the opacity and have this thing moving around. That might be kind of a cool thing. Okay, so let's just make this a little bit longer, but I wanted to show you that's a really important concept. 215, boom. Okay, and then I'm going to just, so why I'm bringing that closer here is that I want to make sure it's going to show not, black if there's no image below it when that transition starts. Okay, so that's video transitions. We'll look at audio effects and video effects next time. Okay, so a crossfade for the audio transitions is the main thing, and you can just use the constant power for right now. I'm going to put that right at the beginning, and you can do a similar thing. It's really nice. You can see, let's do the same, match the audio fade in with the video fade in. Okay, so that's, and then let's put an audio fade in at the end. Let's also stretch this out to the end as well. I'm just showing you one way of doing things just because Premiere might be new to you. Let's just go with 3-second fade out. There's 1,000 ways to do everything, and I'm not going to show you. I don't want to confuse you guys just yet. We'll get into the confusing in advanced video editing. So I'm going to render this stuff. You see when you have a red line here, that means it's a something that needs to be rendered. And that's what's happening here. So we talked about Command Z, and when you want to go back a step or 2 or more. Let's see, we talked about setting the in and out points, scaling the image. I'm going to show you one of them.
Just to see if you're okay. I wasn't sure.
So now we're going to see a fade in. Nice fade, slow fade into that other shot. The music faded in as well. It's got a cool ghostly-like feel to it. Maybe that's what I'm kind of going for, and then let's see the fade out. And then he's going to drop some knowledge on us, and then the audio fades out. We should put a visual fade out on him too. We could say dip to black here. And I'm going to drag and drop that over there. And that's going to, it's like I said, defaults at around 1 second. We can make that 2 seconds. Okay. And then render that real quick. So that's the basic idea. Let me just check if I'm missing anything. I think we got a lot of the stuff. There's one little extra thing I wanted to talk about, and that's sometimes when you're working with video, you don't want to, let's say you've shot some B-roll, and you don't want to have the audio. The important thing here is if you go Command J, it separates your audio from your video. This is also the same technique that you'd want to use if, let's bring that back here. Or is it Command L? Sorry, it's Command L. So that separates that. It's linking. The L stands for linking. And so what you can do here is you can just eliminate that audio. And go Command Z and bring that back. But also it's the same kind of idea if you want to extend the audio. and not see the image. So the Command L key is important, that link and unlink between your audio. So you can remove the audio entirely, just use the audio. You could get rid of the video track there. Okay, so the Command L is the important thing that lets you separate audio and video if you need to do that for your B-roll, or turning an interview just into an audio interview. Okay, so I'm going to go Command S and save that, and that should be a good job to get you going for your rough cut for next week.